Hi guys, today we're testing the 2019 model year Isuzu MU-X. No major changes are made for the MY19 refresh. There is a brand new front bumper bar design, although you'd have to be a pretty keen Isuzu enthusiast to spot the difference. I think some of these grills are a little bit different down here, and that's about it. The headlights are the same. This sort of twin stack chrome section is the same as seen on some of the Isuzu trucks, and yeah, everything else from the front back is pretty much the same as before. There are some new alloy wheels with new spoke patterns. These are the 18-inch with sort of black inner spokes, and there's also some new side steps. They're a bit more molded to the body and look a bit more elegant than before. The example we have here is the LSU, which sits in the middle of the range. There's just three variants, LSM, LSU, and then LST at the top of the range. And then in Australia anyway, you can get these in rear-wheel drive only and part-time four-wheel drive, which is what we got today. So for this video, I want to do a bit of a detailed review for you. Even though it is just a very mild update, we haven't done a detailed review of the MU-X before. We're down at the Penrose State Forest, which is just down from Sydney, sort of in line with Wollongong, just inland a little bit. This is where we took the Toyota Land Cruiser Troopy a few months ago, if you've seen that video. But basically it's just this maze of dirt roads like this and little side streets, I suppose you'd call them, and a little bit of off-roading. I'm not going to be doing any hardcore off-roading, but I think these sorts of conditions are where a majority of MU-X buyers are going to, want to take their car. I'm sure there's some aftermarket guys and, even those in the second-hand car market that will buy these and modify them and go pretty hardcore off-roading. But I think for the new car market, this is about as maximum as they're going to go. I've been down here about 10 times or so over the years, and I've actually got 4 flat tyres in 4 different cars coming down here. I don't know what it is. This side, which is sort of closer to the highway, it's got sort of sand and orange dirt, which is not too bad. But over the other side, it's got this sort of slate type rock, which I think is too sharp for the tyres, and it's actually piercing the sidewall of the tyres. So fingers crossed we don't get a flat today. I'll stay away from that side and we'll just stay on this side, and I'll try and find some relatively rough tracks for you. To start with, let's go over some of the features of the LSU. I'll get it out of the sunshine so we can have a look at the interior. I've got the keys sitting up there on the dash because, being a Japanese car, there's lots of beeps and tones and things to warn you that you've done something. So just leaving the key in the ignition like that will cause the warning to come on. And there's another beep as you start the car, letting you know that you've started the car. Okay, that should be pretty good there. I'll leave it off to start with, and we'll just have a look at the trim and everything. This test vehicle has come with these rubber mats, which they're probably options or dealer options, but speak to your dealer. I think they're definitely worth it. They're nice and thick, and they've got a bit of a rim or a bit of a lip on the edge there just to catch dirt and a bit of liquid and all that sort of thing. Being the mid-spec version, there's no leather. These are just cloth seats. I actually quite like them. They've got a bit of support on the side there, lateral support. And you do have height adjustment, which is a bonus for a sort of, conservative specification vehicle. New for 2019 is some new trimmings for the MU-X. So you got this black piano plastic stuff around the power windows and a little trim piece there. And I think this is also new, this sort of leatherette style with exposed stitching trim for the armrest there. Once you're inside, the driving position isn't perfect in my opinion. You can adjust the steering wheel, but only for rake, like tilt up and down. It doesn't actually pull forward or backwards, which is a bit of a disappointment. But I'm finding a lot of dual cab utes, as this is based on a dual cab ute, don't have perfect driving positions for my body frame anyway. I'm about 170 centimeters. I don't know what my leg to torso ratio is or anything like that, but it's, yeah, just a little bit awkward for me. You do get used to it, so it sort of just becomes that's the way it is. But when I first jumped into the car, it was just took a little bit to find that perfect comfortable position. But in terms of legroom and headroom, it's all pretty good. My head's nowhere near the ceiling, and as I said, the legroom is, you've got a lot of space side to side. But as I said, for me, this seat is a little bit forward for my arm length, which is causing my knees just to bend a little bit. There's plenty of storage space around here, although I think this center console could have been optimized a little bit, because you've got these, well, you've got one cup holder here, which is a little bit small, it'll hold a can, a typical can, and then you've got this weird shaped cup holder thing at the back, and then a little slot for your phone under here, which can fall out. If you accelerate a bit too hard, your phone can slide out and onto the floor. Be nice if that was just a bit deeper, and some of this space around here was just a bit more optimized. There is a drive mode toggle here for the transfer case, and again, I think there's some wasted space around here. I think that could be just redesigned to be a little bit more practical. But this is just nitpicking, really. There's USB ports at the front, 2 USB ports in fact, and a HDMI port, and you've also got an extra cup holder pull out from the dash there. I do quite like that, because you can put your drink in there and blast the air conditioning, and it will actually blow straight onto the can or whatever your drink is. But in saying that, that does block the air from hitting you. Also, if you're on the work site and you're parking the car for half an hour or an hour, you've got your can sitting there, I find the sun does directly smash into it, so it does heat up your bottle after a while. Fortunately though, there is another cup holder down here in the door skin. Up on the top of the dash, you've got this infamous storage pocket, which I haven't been able to open. I've had the car now for 2 days, and yeah, I can't get that working. I'm sure there are a lot of Isuzu owners out there that are yelling at me saying, "You idiot, you just use 13 Newton meters of pressure with one finger and it will pop open." But seriously though, Isuzu, just put a normal button there. Like, I just can't get that open at all. Nope. You do have 2 glove boxes, which is pretty cool. Conventional one there, and then another lift up one just there. It's also got a 12-volt socket that I've just seen. So yeah, no shortage of storage around here, but just, I think the center console could be redesigned a little bit, just to optimize it even further. We will have a look at this dash stack, but I'll jump into the back before we start the engine, and we'll check out those back seats. The MU-X is a 7-seater in Australia, so you've got plenty of room for all the family. Before we get in, you can actually see that the door opening there is quite wide, and there's plenty of leg room even just looking in it before I even get in. But unfortunately, the middle seat can't be slid forward and back, so there's no adjustment under there. That way you could you know, decrease the leg room here and increase it in the third row, or vice versa. As you see, I've got the baby seat installed, and there's plenty of room on either side. I don't know exactly because I haven't tried it, but I think you would fit 3 baby seats across in the back of this. If you are an MU-X owner and you do know that you can or can't fit 3 baby seats across, please leave a comment in the bottom for the rest of the viewers. But just in terms of observing what I can see, it does look like you could fit 3 across. I suppose it does depend on your baby seat. So this is just our spare one. It is pretty basic, and it's quite thin. We do have another one in our family car that's much chunkier, so I don't know if you'd fit some of the chunky ones 3 across, but certainly something like this basic one, it looks like you could fit 3 across. I can confirm a rearward facing capsule fits quite easily. It doesn't actually touch the front seat there, and you can have that slid back if you really want to. There's plenty of room. There are also ISOFIX or ISOFIX points down here, including in the middle row, and then of course a top tether point on the back of the seat there. But yeah, there's plenty of room. I've got heaps of leg room, and yeah, I'm not going to be complaining about comfort overall. This LSU version does come with climate control, well, not control, but sort of air vent control in the back or the ceiling here. So you can adjust the fan speed and where you're spraying the air somewhat, and turn it off and on. There is also a button in the front there on the dash, just to the left of the steering wheel, that can deactivate the rear vents here if you've got a sleeping baby and you're a bit warm or cold in the front and you want to just turn it off. You can do that from the front. Interestingly, even though this is the mid-spec model, it does have a pretty serious sound system there, surround sound it says, which is quite nice for a mid-spec model. There are no cup holders in the back. This panel does look like it comes out, but as far as I know, there's nothing that actually opens there. But there is a sneaky little USB port in the back of the armrest, which is a nice little touch. There is a flip down armrest here, which does have cup holders in it. So if you don't have anyone in the middle, you can obviously utilize those. Well, check out that third row. Access the rear, you just flip this little tab up the top, and then the seat will actually flip right up and allow you to step in. This test car came with a tow bar. It was rattling around in the back there, so I've just put it there. I'll just lift this seat up as well. We'll move this big chunky tow bar. Watch you don't smash your feet. And I've just discovered a little bit of a problem. I can't actually lift that back up. I've got to lean all the way to the front and then close it back down. But obviously if you're sitting in the back here, there's a reason for it, and there's likely going to be another individual getting in there so they can close it for you. In terms of space though, my knees are touching the back of the seat, not too uncomfortably, but on a long journey I would start to get a bit uncomfortable. If I just sort of spread my legs there, it makes it a bit better. But my feet are shoved under the seat as well. As I said, if that middle bench could slide forward just a touch, it'll really improve the overall comfort. What is very cool is some more vents up in the ceiling, even for the third row passengers. That's a very nice touch, and it sort of gives us an example of this car's main focus. So this is a family car that can go anywhere, basically. There's a little cup holder in the back, and then this side gets more of a trough for a phone or whatever, and grab handles for when you're off-roading. And then down here you've actually got another little area for whatever, a phone or something like that. It does have adjustable headrests, so you can get comfortable and have a bit of safety there. If someone rear ends you, you're slightly protected from whiplash. But yeah, I could sit in here for a reasonable journey. My head's just missing the ceiling, so if you're taller than 170 centimeters, you probably will be touching that roof there. But for me, I would have reasonable amount of comfort for a journey of about an hour, I suppose, without getting too uncomfortable. Let's check out the boot area while I've got the 7 seats in position, and I'll also flip them down and show you what it looks like with 5-seat configuration. Let's just come off for some reason. So you've got a little bit of space there, not a lot, but you could put a gym bag and very light shopping, and there is a little box under here as well. I don't know what that little thing does. Maybe you can take the whole thing out. I don't know. But yeah, not too much room there, maybe for some light shopping, and that's about it. Push the seats down, you just pull those tabs, and then you've got, oops, almost fell over, and then you've got plenty of room there. It is quite high, the boot floor. I am parked on a little bit of an angle, so you can see the car. Well, I don't know if you can see it on camera, but it is slightly raised at the back, but it is quite high, especially with that step up there. That's almost up to my waist, but I think when you're parked on level ground, it's kind of up to my thighs, which is, it's a bit of a lift if you've got heavy things. There is a 12-volt socket in the back as well, so you can put a fridge or something like that for those long journeys. All right, let's hit the dirt and see how it goes. As I said, we won't be doing any hardcore off-roading. We'll just check out a few of these tracks and hopefully not get a flat tire and then I'll hit the highway and we'll go down towards Wollongong through some of the mountain passes, and we'll check out the handling and sum it up there. Actually, sorry, I forgot to show you this infotainment system, didn't I? The good old beep as you start the car for whatever reason. Yeah, I think it's a bit unfortunate that Isuzu hasn't updated this touchscreen. It's not that it's really, really bad. It does, you know, pretty much everything. The graphics are okay. And the size is actually not too bad as well compared with other SUVs in this market space. But it just does lack some depth. So Apple CarPlay and Android Auto would obviously be an easy way to really enhance the functionality of this screen. But yeah, as you can see, there's just a few apps. You got Maps, Sat Nav. This is actually a brand new car. It's only got where did I see it? 500 kilometers on it. So it's brand new, and no one has actually gone through and configured all that yet. I won't bother doing that. You've got a few settings to play around with, but not all that much. Navigation, vehicle signal. You can turn your front and rear camera off. No front camera, sorry. You can turn your rear camera off for whatever reason. What else can we do? Check out your eco driving settings. It is in kilometers per litre, which is a little bit annoying. I don't know if you can change that. You might be able to. But yeah, as you can see, there's a bit of blank space here. It's just not you know, doesn't live up to the market standards at this day and age. And I think it could be updated quite easily. It's just, you know, software running behind the scenes. So I don't see why Isuzu couldn't update that. But it is fitting to the rest of the car. So this is a pretty, well, I want to say basic, but probably practical is a better word. So it does suit the sort of practicality of the car. About the only design flourish, if you like, is this climate control system. It's a little circular dial. It looks quite nice. The only problem I have with it is you instantly turn this big knob here to, well, you think it's the fan speed, but the fan speed is actually these little buttons on the side, and then this changes the temperature. I think if that was reversed, it might make a bit more sense, but that's just my opinion. Other people probably like it like that. So for now, I'll just leave it in rear-wheel drive. You can put it into four-wheel drive, but this car doesn't come with a center differential, so it's probably not advised that you drive around in four-wheel drive on anything but loose surfaces, so it can have a bit of, you know, driveline freedom there to slip and spin with it in four-wheel drive. And then there's also low range four-wheel drive as well. Okay. Before we go, I might just take these keys off because they do rattle around a bit. I know it can get annoying. What's powering this thing? It's the same 3-litre turbo diesel 4-cylinder as before. This engine actually started life back in the sort of early 2000s, 2004 or 2005, I think. So it has been around for a while. It has received a couple of mild updates, mainly to help it pass Euro 5 emissions standards. But yeah, it's basically the same unit that's been around for a while. It is proven and tested, I suppose, and it has excellent reliability reputation. And it also is now the largest capacity 4-cylinder diesel in this class. There is a 3.2-litre 5-cylinder in the Ford Everest, but yeah, that's a 5-cylinder. So this is a 4-cylinder, big pistons, and that obviously brings better compression, especially good for towing. So you can use the compression of the engine to slow down the car in a caravan or a trailer better than you can in a smaller capacity engine. $130 kilowatts and 430 Newton meters, puts it about smack bang in the middle of the class. It's not especially powerful, but it doesn't lack really in torque. There's one thing I do notice about this engine is it is quite noisy compared with others, And you could argue that it's because there's larger pistons, literally larger pistons banging up and down, bigger explosions for each of the pistons. Sorry, the sun's probably right in your face there. Which is probably true, but I think Isuzu could have made some refinements, even something really small for 2019, just to quieten it down a little bit, because it is noticeably louder, although not ridiculously loud, but noticeably louder than some of the competition, the more modern competition. There is a sweet spot when you turn it off. No, just joking. There is a sweet spot at about 2,000 RPM when you're cruising along the highway. I'll just close that so we don't get the sun. But yeah, there is a sweet spot when you're cruising along the highway, and it does quieten down a bit. I think the biggest thing that you notice is the rest of the car is surprisingly smooth and refined. So Isuzu has made some minor adjustments to the steering for the MU-X only, not for the D-Max for MY19. It says that there's a lighter feel when you're parking and low speeds, but then you still get that solid feeling when you're up on the highway. To tell you the truth, I last drove a MU-X about a year ago, the MY18 model, and I can't honestly tell you if there's any difference. It would be unprofessional of me to comment on that. I've driven too many cars between now and then to notice any difference. But I will say it's very refined. It's very smooth, and it feels quite nice to turn. It doesn't feel like a truck. It's just, as I said, that contrasting engine noise is the main thing. As I said, it's not that it's really loud. If you're used to diesels, you won't be complaining. But it's just compared with everything else. Everything else in the car is quite quiet, and then you just got this noisy engine. So as you can see, there's nothing too serious in this forest that this MU-X can't tackle. But you do get a certain amount of confidence knowing that you can get through any of this with ease. And not even have to engage the four-wheel drive. But I will try and find a more difficult track for you and see how it goes. There is a track up in there. I have been up there before, but it's starting to get a bit overgrown. It doesn't look too bad. I'll hit four-wheel drive. It's just a matter of twisting the knob into four-wheel drive. You can do it on the go. Sorry, I'm just checking that microphone. It's not rubbing up against the seatbelt. But you can do it on the go. Although it's probably nice just to slot it into neutral just to let it settle itself. But a little symbol comes up on the dash there saying you've activated four-wheel drive. As I said, I have been up here before. It's pretty, it's not bad little four-wheel drive track, but it is starting to get a little bit overgrown. And there's no real turnaround spot, so I have to either reverse or do a 50-point turn. Yeah, it's a bit narrow through here. Unlike the D-Max, the MU-X comes with coil springs at the back, the rear end. So it still has a live axle, but coil springs just to help with comfort when you're carrying passengers. Obviously, it doesn't need to carry a big load like a utility with a tray on the back, so there's no need for heavy-duty leaf springs. No problem getting up any of this. There is a little bit of a steep section down here from memory, but it's nothing that this car can't handle. As with the anyone that remembers the Jimny detailed review that I did a few weeks ago, I think I might have mentioned it, but yeah, the tracks don't look as serious on camera as they do in real life. So just here, it's going down quite steep there and then it rises back up again. A good way to tell on camera is if you can see the end of the track, it means it has to be rising up, because if it's straight, you don't see the end. So if you can see the top of the track over there, it just gives you a bit of an idea of how steep it is. I'm not going to say it's really, really steep, but it's you wouldn't be able to take a normal hatchback even through this little section, for example. In saying that, I don't think I even need four-wheel drive. There's no traction issues or anything like that. It's just mainly the clearance that is needed to get through. Just have to be careful not to scratch the paintwork with these branches that are hanging out. And sometimes these big sticks that are laying across there, you hit one side of them and they can flick up. So what I try and do is just sort of run over the middle of them, and not go, you know, flying over them at 100 k's an hour. And there's the highway right there. It gives you a bit of an idea of where we are. But yeah, that was all too easy for the MU-X. As I said though, you wouldn't be able to get a normal conventional sedan or hatchback through there, mainly because of the clearance. So the D-Max has 230 millimeters of ground clearance, which is not too bad for this segment. One thing you notice when you are doing a U-turn with the four-wheel drive engaged, it does feel like there's a bit of a, sorry, I'm just checking the microphone again. It is a bit tight, so you do have to be wary that the driveline is a bit tight and it won't have the full lock capacity of it in rear-wheel drive. You've just got to take a few more turns to spin around. This car does come with hill descent control as standard. We'll try it out down this little steep section. It's pretty easy to operate, and it is quite good as well. It functions really well. So during the media launch, we went to the AARC down in Victoria, and they've got a purpose-built four-wheel drive track with some very steep inclines, and we got to demonstrate how this hill descent control works, and it's yeah, works really well. And you can also moderate the speed and go down to about 3 kilometers an hour, I think, or 4 kilometers an hour. So you can just, yeah, really creep down hills. So I'll just try it over this little ledge here. All you do, a few little ferns, you get to the top and then you hit the button, turn it on, sorry. Hill descent control comes up on the dash, and then basically let it go and it will slow down the car for you. So you can apply the brakes to slow it down and it will work like cruise control and it will stay at that speed. So I've got my feet completely off the brakes and it's just cruising down at that last set speed. I think it beeped then because a little plant was getting close to the parking sensor. So you can actually leave that on. You don't have to worry about turning it off when you get to the bottom of the hill if you're doing a big long four-wheel drive journey. And then next time you encounter a big steep section, you can just activate it as usual, or it will activate itself, sorry. I just stopped speaking then because it was a little bit, not going to say very scary, but could have slid downwards. As I said, the stuff on camera doesn't look as serious as it is in real life, but still, yeah, the MU-X does it easily with no problems whatsoever. Fingers crossed I haven't got a flat tire. I don't think I will have. As I said, the other part of the forest over the other side, there's kind of slate rocks which I think are piercing the sidewall of the tire. I haven't let the tires down at all, just as a side note there, and I don't think I ever have in this forest, so I don't know. Yeah, there shouldn't be any reason the rocks are piercing sidewalls, because yeah, I haven't let the tires down. But anyway, just a word of warning, if you are planning on coming out here, be careful of the just make sure you carry a spare tire. Easy. Got some more overgrown stuff through here, unfortunately, but it should be okay. It's just ferns, or whatever you call those little plants. I have been through here before, and I know that there is a normal dirt road just up ahead. I'll keep pressing on. little creek crossing just here from memory. See, something like this probably doesn't look that bad on camera, but it actually goes down quite suddenly, and it's even the parking sensors are going off. So I'll just quickly get out and show you. So it does have a pretty good approach angle, and you can see those little plants there, but that's getting pretty close to the nose. But apologies for the traffic right there, but yeah, we'll have no problem going through here. But yeah, on camera, as I said, some things don't look as bad as in person. But we'll keep going through. There's nothing in that, it's just a bunch of plants. No big rocks sticking out or anything like that. You can turn the parking sensors off. That button just there. There's no actual light that tells you that you've done so. Just, of course, another beep. Maybe that's off. Just take it easy. And that hill descent control is working. But yeah, no problem at all. We'll go around here and have a look. There's a bit of a sandy section. It's not deep or anything, but might be something interesting. I think the MU-X is there. It's great for families that want to get a bit adventurous and go on camping trips and tour parts of Australia that you wouldn't otherwise be accessible to a normal hatchback or a wagon. And if you are thinking of buying an MU-X, I'd encourage you to use it. You know, there's no point in buying an SUV like this, which is, you know, let's face it, it's quite a heavy duty, you know, chassis rail, ladder type chassis, heavy duty SUV. You might as well use it. If not, you can go for something like a Hyundai Santa Fe diesel or a Subaru Outback even, and it will provide you with decent ground clearance, but it is more suitable for on the road. Speaking of on the road, Isuzu has changed the tyres for the MY19 model. So this one comes with what's called HT tyres, which I think means highway terrain. So you can go off-road, but they're not as aggressively patterned, or the tread isn't as aggressive as the previous model tyres that were chosen for the MU-X. This means that it cruises better on the highway, and it also helps with fuel consumption. Although I don't think there's a change in the official average. It would help in the long run in terms of overall efficiency too, so you won't have to change the tyres as often as you might. It's a bit quieter as well. It is pretty easy to get lost in here. As I said, it's like a maze. There's just roads and little streets going everywhere. As I said, I've been here maybe 10 times, so I know a little bit of about where I am, but yeah, just be careful if you are coming down here to get your sat-nav going so you know how to get out, because it is a little bit scary. There's a little bit of eeriness about this area. I don't know what it is, but maybe the sort of forests and the way the big, what do you call these, pine trees are all stacked up. It just looks a little bit scary. But this is where we came through before, I think, and went down there. But anyway, let's hit the road, hit the highway, and we'll see how it cruises. And then we'll hit some mountain roads and see how it handles, especially with the new steering setup and with the road-oriented tyres. As we go out onto the highway, I'll give us an opportunity to test out the acceleration. So I've got to dart across this first section. That sun is right in my face. But after that, I'll give you a sort of 0 to 100 run. Go straight across here. there's roadworks happening anyway. But basically the MU-X is not too bad for the typical 0 to 100 sprint. We timed the 2017 model, I think we did last, in about 10.5 seconds. I assume this will be pretty similar. From memory, that one that we did test had a factory bull bar on it, which may have weighed it down somewhat. But still, I'd expect this to do pretty similar. We will be doing the usual 0 to 100 video as well, just to give it a bit of a refresh for 2017, the YouTube channel I mean, and see what it does. But yeah, the acceleration is not too bad. 10.5 seconds for a heavy-duty SUV like this is not bad at all. Some of them do about 11 or 12 seconds, so 10.5 is pretty good. As you can probably hear, the engine's humming along just nicely. It's got a sweet spot at about anywhere between 1600 and 2000 RPM. I'll just put the cruise control on at 110, and it's pretty quiet. It's quite refined for what it is. It's only when you start revving it up to about 3000 it starts to really clatter around, and it almost makes you cringe as it sort of really harshly clatters, and then it settles again above that as it really sort of runs out of path right up in the high RPM. But in saying that, diesels, especially ones like this, aren't meant for high revving. They're more sort of torque, low down torque to just surge through gears effortlessly rather than straining them right out. Wind noise is pretty good. It's not too loud. I can hear a little bit around the tyres, around the front end. Not too much around the mirrors, even though the mirrors are quite large. But yeah, it's not too bad. Definitely it could cruise around the country in this and not be, uncomfortable by its highway driving capability. So we're just going to go down towards Wollongong, and there's some winding roads down here that we can test out. Actually, as we pull out of here, I'll give it the beans. So we're going 40 kilometers an hour. I'll floor it. Wait for this guy, make sure he doesn't pull in front of me. Yeah, even though the performance of this wouldn't really run into that. But yeah, so 60 kilometers an hour, floor it. Bit of a delay. Right at 3000 it starts to really clatter. And then it settles down a bit after that. But yeah, overtaking performance, it's, look, it's not a performance car, so it's not exceptional, but it can do it. As I said, the low down torque is where it's at, and that's where it's most important off-road as well. And it gets up to speed just fine. It's just that's probably the weakest part of the acceleration. Just the mid-range pull and overtaking performance is probably the worst part of the acceleration of the car. In terms of economy, it's averaging 10.7 kilometers per litre. I will try and do a conversion for that and flash it up onto the screen into litres per 100. As I said, I'm not sure how to change that, but from memory, the MU-X is not too bad for what it is. I'm noticing it doesn't pitch quite as much as some of the other heavy-duty SUVs, like the Toyota Prado, that really pitches under brakes. This is not so bad. There's no cars behind me. I won't fully slam the brakes. But it dips down a bit, but not as much as some of the others. Back up to speed again. And yeah, that clattery engine. I wish Isuzu made just some refinements to the engine. Even adding a tiny bit more power would be good, simply for the sake of a refresh. But Isuzu is a bit like Toyota in that respect, in my opinion anyway. They rarely change things that aren't broken. So they'll develop something, spend a reasonable amount of money on it, not too much, not get into debt like some of the other, or not big debt like some of the other car makers, but then they'll make sure that that's over-engineered for what it is, and underpowered for what it can potentially produce. That way it maintains longevity and reliability. Anyway, let's hit the twisty stuff and see how it handles. Okay, so we're just at the top of Macquarie Pass. in the Southern Highlands. We've just been through Robertson, just up through there. We're going to come down into the Illawarra. It is 4:20 on a Thursday afternoon, so I suspect there will be a bit of traffic around. But this being a heavy-duty ute-based SUV, I'm not expecting amazing things in the bends. We can compare it, of course, to other, 7-seat heavy-duty SUVs in the market in terms of the handling. So it's going up against the likes of the Toyota Prado, that's the best seller in this segment, as well as the Mitsubishi Pajero Sport, Toyota Fortuner, and the Holden Colorado 7. Sorry, that's called the Holden Trailblazer now. But I think the MU-X is a pretty good balance between all of them. So there's not too much body roll. It doesn't throw you from side to side with each bend. It seems pretty flat and stable, actually. And the steering doesn't get all tight and heavy once you start turning in some lock. It just stays pretty consistent. So that's a good thing. I mean, it means it's comfortable to drive, and anybody can drive this comfortably and not feel like you're driving a truck. It's also not too wide, so some of them are quite wide, but it's not quite as narrow, I don't think, compared with the Pajero Sport. The Mitsubishi Triton, the Pajero Sport, has also always seemed a bit narrow, whereas this got a good balance. I think it's a nice footprint, nice design as well, a consistent sort of design, well proportioned, and that's sort of how it feels on the road. You know where the wheels are, you know where the edge of the body is. It's yeah, pretty intuitive. Tight hairpin here. Doesn't have the best turning circle, but it is a very tight hairpin. Yeah, it's quite pleasant. It's not squealing the tires at every corner. It feels quite relaxed and yeah, quite comfortable in the twisty bends. There is no sport mode or anything like that, but you can use the gears to manually shift. Although in saying that, this transmission does have a good gradient logic, so if you hit the brakes or just trail the brakes, it'll change down gears and anticipate, as you can just see then, that you're going down a hill, and it will help slow you down. It's quite clever in that regard. It likes big long sweeping bends the best, I think. It seems to turn very smooth and quiet. I'm not sure if you can hear that or not hear that. It's very pleasant to drive. It's just when you get into the real tight stuff, it starts to show its weight and size. A bit more of a tight one here. But even then, that's quite a bit of lock, and it didn't squeal the tyres or anything like that. It's quite nice. The LSU version doesn't come with automatic headlights, which I think is a little bit of a disappointment, especially in 2019, so you still have to put them on manually. See, then it's holding the lower gear for you. As we come into this corner, it might change down. No, maybe not. Overall, I think the MU-X's on-road performance is pretty good. Like I'd put it near the top of the class in terms of the non-premium heavy-duty 7-seat SUV class, especially the ute-based class. So up against the Fortuner and the Mitsubishi Pajero Sport, I think the MU-X actually handles pretty much the best. I'd need to drive both of them, or all three of them, back to back to really come to a conclusion, but from memory, I think this does handle the best. The Pajero Sport requires a few more turns, lock to lock, so it becomes a bit more uncomfortable, and then the Fortuner, I can't quite remember that, how that went on the road, but it obviously didn't leave a lasting impression in terms of the on-road handling. But they're all pretty good these days. The road-oriented tyres definitely helping out a little bit there, so they're got more tread on the road, which helps obviously with grip instead of the slightly chunkier tyres that the MU-X used to use. Just then again, changing down a gear for me. Just while we're following these cars, there's good visibility as well, so I can easily see over my windowsill, easily see all out the front. Fairly narrow A-pillar, and I can see over the top of the mirror as well. So yeah, this is definitely good for families, and even, you know, if you've got young ones that are starting to learn to drive, they should have no problem learning to drive in a car like this. It's not intimidating. In fact, that's probably the best word to sum up the Isuzu MU-X. It's the least intimidating car in the class, and that in every way, I mean. So all this touchscreen and everything, the interface, the controls, they're all very, very user-friendly and practical. And it's a similar story with its on-road and off-road performance. It's all very approachable and easy to manage. If you're in the market for a 7-seat heavy-duty SUV, the MU-X is definitely worth checking out. Sure, there are some areas that are a little bit crude, and it's a little bit basic in some areas as well, but in saying that, it's very reliable, very practical, and it's very user-friendly. It's a shame that the MY19 doesn't bring in more updates. It's just a few cosmetic changes, as I mentioned, and the steering system is revised slightly, but that's about it. There is, however, a new blind spot warning system which is added in. There's these little sensors on the side here, or these little lights on the side, and you can actually turn it off with a secret button under the steering column. It seems like a bit of an afterthought. The switch looks like you'd get from some hardware store and you just chuck it in there. But in saying that, it's good that it's got that technology. Unfortunately, it doesn't come with autonomous emergency braking. None of the MU-X variants come with autonomous emergency braking, which is disappointing, especially in this day and age. This technology is fast becoming a standard feature on many passenger cars, and even is starting to work its way into utes and off-roaders. So it's a bit of a shame that Isuzu hasn't taken the MY19 as an opportunity to introduce such technology. Tying in with that is usually adaptive cruise control as well, which this doesn't get either. So yeah, overall it is a mild update, but it's a case of if it ain't broken, don't fix it. I just think this could have been a great opportunity to bring in some technology updates in terms of, yeah, the touchscreen, autonomous emergency braking, as I mentioned, and potentially some refinements to the engine to quieten it down just a little bit. Anyway, I'll put together a written review on the website soon, and we'll do our usual 0 to 100 test. Until then, thanks for watching.